Hello and welcome to another episode of Ball Around the Head. We're back after a week and a half, kind of. And for those of you who just watched the football game, now we're ready to talk basketball because basketball is kind of in an interesting situation right now, to be honest. The season started out good. Everyone was complimenting Silver, saying he's done a great job with the protocols. The teams are looking good. And then the holidays hit. People started hanging around friends, and there is now a major outbreak, COVID, amongst a bunch of teams. The Celtics Heat game got postponed today, and a bunch of other teams. The Sixers had to play 7 people the other day. It's interesting. So Ben, I have to ask you: is the league headed towards a postponement?
I'm gonna lean towards no, just because I still have a lot of confidence in Adam Silver and the league in general, and all the protocols they have in place. But the downside of all the protocols is it's a lot stricter than like what you see in the NFL, or if some guy, maybe you'll see 1 or 2 guys surrounding a player who tested positive get quarantined for a while, but it's a lot stricter in the NBA, so that leaves teams with below the 8-man limit to play in regulation games. So like a lot smaller things can lead to a lot bigger consequences with the rules. So it could easily happen. I still have a lot of faith in Adam Silver and the league, and I think they'll find a way around. They already prepared for this by only releasing the first half of the schedule, so they have a lot of flexibility to put those postponed games in. So I think they'll find a way to make it work, but who knows? The situation, it always surprises us.
Hello, Christina. Thank you for that compliment. Andrew, what you got?
Wait, before I start, I thought I would just read off some of the players in case people listening were curious. So the Celtics, I'll read off the important players that kind of make a difference. So Jason Tatum, Tristan Thompson, and apparently Grant and Robert Williams. Are they brothers or something? Or they just have the same last name?
Just name, last name.
Yeah, so they're gone for the Celtics. I mentioned those two. I thought they were brothers, but they're not that important. 76ers, they lost Seth Curry, which is important to mention that a lot of the 76ers, specifically, I know you mentioned they played with 7 players, and Seth Curry was in the game and left. But he was wearing a mask on the sideline, and a lot of the parent tests that the NBA has done, really, if a player is positive and they're near other players, the likelihood of it's a lot less likelihood that the other players will also test positive later on, which is than you would think, because most of the Rockets, when they got COVID a couple weeks ago, when they had to sit out, specifically John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, they were in the room when they were getting haircuts. They were in the room with I forgot who tested positive, but it was short distance of time, social distance inside. So transition it's kind of not as much. So I don't think the league is going to be headed towards postponement. Like Ben said, they prepared. I think the NBA is like probably the most, as far as players and listening to the league. I think the NBA has one of the best, combination of both the players with the NBA, National Basketball Players Association, and the NBA, their team, and they want to do the best. So I don't think they're headed towards postponement. And also Bradley Beal got tested positive. I forgot to mention.
I have some strong feelings on this topic because when I say postpone, I don't mean like what they did back in March and just like have a couple months off and then do that. I meant like kind of a 2-week reset. Everyone who has COVID, they can get over it. Like there's no holidays, like major family holidays coming up soon. So like I think they get a good chunk of the season in, at least for the first half. But Adam Silver today said that they don't have any plans on postponing the season at all. And as Ben mentioned, that's why they split the schedule into 2, for all these postponed games to be made up at a later date. Another thing I want to get off my chest is the Sixers fans who are complaining that their game was not postponed and the Celtics was today. The reason behind that is on the injury report, the 76ers added Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid very, very late. So the league had no notice of that. So at the time they had, I believe, 8 or 9 players active. And if the league was aware of having you guys having just 7 players, obviously they would have postponed. So it's a little bit on the Sixers' fault. Sixers' part that that game did not get postponed. So you can't really get mad at Silver. A lot of people are saying Silver's against them. And Embiid tweeted that the Silver's against them. But you guys,
oh my gosh,
there were last minute injuries. Simmons seems a little serious, but I think Woj even said like Embiid, like they just like wrote it down last minute, like, oh, Embiid might be hurt. Like we don't want to play him like with just 7 people. So I don't want to hear any of that complaining from Sixer fans. Silver is by far the best commissioner in all of sport. For everyone who's saying get rid of Silver, which is the complete overreaction to this. We knew that there will be positive tests. They were not going to go a whole season without a positive test. These are grown men. They go to some cities like Miami, Los Angeles. They're not going to sit in their rooms when they should. And they have family members. They have to kind of keep. And that's what happened with Kevin Durant. His family members tested positive, not him. So he had to be quarantined for a little bit. So do I think it'll postpone? No. Should it postpone? Yes, just for a couple of weeks. But it doesn't seem like Silver has any ideas. It's just going to be interesting to see. I think my last solution on this, they need to expand the rosters to at least like 20.
Oh yeah, maybe that would be cool. I mean, how many? There's 14 per team,
there's
right?
15, 17. No, 15 active, 17 in total, I guess.
Yeah, they expanded it a little bit because I think it was 13, 15, and now it's 15, 17.
Yeah, because they have the G League players that are 2-way, right? So those ones are the okay. And for the Lakers, I'm pretty sure it's Kakak, right?
I don't know how to pronounce his name, but yeah, I know you're talking about. But yeah, I think that's what they need to do. Like, there's some good basketball players who are free agents right now that could easily fill in when these teams have like outbreaks. So I think that's an idea that maybe they will actually do eventually, because this is a little bad. But I think, as I said, the holidays are over soon, so it should be done. So it's be interesting to see what happens there. Hopefully, obviously, nothing bad happens. Hopefully, everyone stays healthy out there. So we're going to talk about actual basketball right now. The gameplay, and something that surprised a bunch of people, including us, because I'm pretty sure all of us had the Knicks at the very bottom of our rankings, or near the bottom. The Knicks but when I wrote this question, the Knicks were 5-3. Since then, they've lost 2 straight, but still they're 5-5. And last season, they started the season 5-20. So it's definitely an improvement. Andrew, are the Knicks better than we thought?
Yeah, I mean, they already have 5 wins. So honestly, I'm pretty impressed. But in all seriousness, I prepared for this yesterday, and they were 5-4. So I mean, today they're on track 5-5 for 36 wins. I mean, because 72 games this season, right? So I think the Knicks are definitely better than we thought. I mean, it's kind of hard to be worse than we thought the Knicks would be. But the Knicks are pretty good. Julius Randle is balling out. I don't think he'll be an all-star though, but I think his numbers would be all-star caliber. And also, RJ Barrett stepped up this year, and I'm an Obi Toppin fan, but I don't think I don't watch Knicks games, but I don't think he's performed as well, I've heard. But yeah, Knicks better than I thought, at least. I had him at 30.
Exactly. So Ben, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's too early to tell. I think Randall's definitely made a big leap, and he's better than we thought. But the Knicks as a whole, I'm still not a believer. I think they're off the floor of the conference, but I don't have much faith in them to like make the playoffs or anything. They do have some impressive wins. Their schedule has not been a cakewalk. They beat the Bucks. They beat the Jazz and the Pacers already. That's 3 out of their 5 wins. So hasn't been like, the Thunder and stuff that they've beaten, but I don't expect them to keep this up. It's still too early. 10 games in, everyone's, it's kind of weird this year. Everyone's at around 500. Like normally at this time of year, you'd have like one undefeated team left, like 10-0. Nobody has less than 3 losses. Mm-hmm. Like it's been such a balanced start to the year. It's been crazy. But yeah, anyway, I'll need to see more from the Knicks. Not quite a believer.
I think that's something we touched on earlier when, like, after the first flurry of offseason moves, that this league's just more balanced. There's not really like the Warriors and the old school Sixers when they tanked. Like there's they have competitive teams. What I'm trying to get at, and on this topic, there's a smart guy on our podcast back then when was asked on our
I never left, but okay.
that said which coach will make the biggest impact, and he said Tom Thibodeau, and it looks very good so far. He's getting the best out of, as Andrew mentioned, best out of Julius Randle. He's having a near all-star season. RJ Barrett has been good. He's had some off games, but he's been good for the most part. Mitchell Robinson's one of the most underrated centers of the league. They have a good team. I'm with Ben. I don't think there's a small chance they can make the play-in. I don't think they're definitely a lock for a top 8 seed, but they are a lot better than I thought they would be. They look like I follow some Knicks fans on Twitter, and they all say that this is one of the most fun teams they've seen since before Porzingis got injured. So it looks like I was complimenting the general manager over the offseason over how he's like not going for the home run hit, and they're actually building a team. And it looks like they're actually building a team, and it's fun to watch. Hopefully, because New York, Madison Square Garden's the center of basketball, so they need to be competitive. So it's fun to see that. So hopefully the Knicks can continue to be good. So that'd be good for the game of basketball. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the next question is a topic that I've seen brought up because of Steph Curry's 62-point game the other night. Going into it, there was a discussion on Twitter about who is the best point guard in the NBA right now. So I'm going to flip it to you guys. Ben, who do you think is the best point guard in the NBA?
Yeah, I was thinking about this one, and I'm going to take the bait. Steph Curry. He has me convinced already. Like, he looks back to me. Like, I mean, I still believe in Luka and LeBron, and back when we did those rankings, I still believe in those guys. But Steph Curry, he looks like the guy who, you have to double, and has his trademark range, like everything you saw from his MVP years. And the Warriors are back over 500, I believe, after their slow start. And Steph Curry.
I believe right now they're even tied for the 4th seed. Like they're up there, and they're like, they're half a game out from the Clippers for 3rd, and 1.5 games out of 1st. So, Andrew, what you got?
It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Yes.
Hold on, before I preface this, one of the greatest NBA comebacks of all time we're witnessing now. This player, he's been balling out recently. He's joined the team that's really fit him. He can make everybody around him better. Not this guy, unfortunately.
Oh,
Ricky Rubio.
Oh my God.
No, I'm just joking. It's Chris Paul. I think it's Chris Paul, and I was going to go with Steph Curry. And let me put my headphones back in so the microphone quality is a bit better.
I was going to go with Steph Curry too, but when I think of a point guard, I think of somebody who is like a leader on the floor, kind of like a quarterback. Let me just kind of go through my thinking, and then I'll compare Chris and Curry. But a leader on the floor, somebody who makes everybody around them better, and just doesn't have to solo carry his team. I feel like, which is what I see Curry doing. Not tonight, because apparently he had the worst shooting night of his entire career today. But I think Chris Paul, he's a huge vocal leader on the court, which I don't think Curry is as much. And I think Chris Paul gets the best out of all his players. I mean, DeAndre Ayton, a lot of people thought he was a bust after you seeing Luka Doncic, and the most overrated player of all time, alongside Luka Doncic, which I'm not even going to name him, and he's not one of the best point guards in the league. I'll let you the overrated one, and so DeAndre Ayton's bounced back. Obviously, Devin Booker's just performing at an excellent level, top 5 player in the league in my opinion, and Chris Paul, I just think he's amazing, and he is on definitely a career revival this year, and last year too.
All right, I'm surprised that none of you guys even mentioned Kyrie or Damian Lillard in your conversations for best point guards. The reason the debate was brought up was between Lillard and Curry. And however, even though you guys didn't bring him up, I'm still going to side with Ben. I actually do think Steph Curry is the best point guard in the game. It is so much fun to watch him play basketball, especially when he's on a roll. That 62-point performance was so much fun to watch. He just chucks it up. It's nothing but net. The bench is going crazy, and it's just fun to see. He's a great point guard. I don't understand why he gets a lot of hate. He is working with not a lot of people, not a lot of good players, and they're fourth in the conference. And people are like, oh, well, LeBron led this team to the finals. Yeah, cool. But Curry isn't LeBron. They're two completely different players. Like, I don't know why people are comparing that. Just appreciate greatness while you still have it. Because Curry is one of the best, performers we've seen in our lifetime. Well, at least our lifetime. But yeah, so I think Curry is the best point guard in the NBA. Lillard had the edge going into the season because he didn't know what to expect from Curry, but Lillard hasn't played that good this year. Like, for Lillard standards, he's not that good this year.
It's because the regular season has never really been too good for Lillard. He's a playoff player. He's always been a playoff player. But real quick. When I was trying to think of this, I did think of Kyrie. I had it down to Chris Paul, Kyrie, Curry, and Luka Doncic. So, but because apparently Luka's a point guard in fantasy, so I don't know. But yeah, I didn't even think of Damian Lillard. I forgot actually.
So yeah, it's actually good debate.
What was Ben going to say? Sorry, Ben. What were you saying?
I was going to say Luka's definitely a point guard.
I actually probably would have picked Luka, but I didn't consider him a point guard while I did this. That was my bad.
Yeah, I don't think he's a point guard. You think he's a point guard?
Yeah, I mean, he brings the ball up every time.
I guess that's true. I mean, Tim Hardaway Jr., I thought he does dribbling.
He does dribbling.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Well, next question.
All right. Well, this question was brought to you by Andrew, and he wanted to discuss the Nets, who are off to an interesting start, to say the least. First couple games, I was a guy who bought into the hype. They looked like they were the best team in the league by a long shot, and they have been pretty mediocre these past couple games against not that good of opponents. Today, they lost to the Thunder. Not only did they lose to them, the Thunder team was one of the worst offensive teams in the league, and they had the best scoring output of their season. So the Nets defense is horrible so far. Yes, Kyrie Irving isn't playing, but they just haven't been playing good. So, Andrew, what do you think of this Nets start so far?
Well, the Nets are negative, which I never would have expected them to be negative in the first 10 games, or I guess the first 11 games because they're 5-6. I am a huge fan of Kyrie Irving this year, and I don't know what. Well, he hasn't been playing for the last couple of games, which thank goodness, because I would have lost this week in fantasy if he was playing. But I don't think I lost this week against Holden and Kyrie, who's been balling up the entire season, and in my opinion is an MVP candidate. But he hasn't been playing in the last 3 games. And KD is back, and I know that he literally dropped like 40 today, or a high 30, and they still couldn't get the win. So I just think you mentioned defense. Like Jared Allen in the paint isn't really the best defender. I think he's more of an offensive big man. Although he does get a lot of blocks, I don't think this year has been his defensive year. The last 2 years ago, really, he kind of popped off. But I'm a fan of the Nets. I like Karis LeVert too. I have him on fantasy.
All right.
I think the last 2 losses to Memphis and the Thunder pretty bad, but before that, I was pretty impressed with them. I mean, definitely the first 2 wins they had against the Warriors and the Celtics, like blowout wins, when KD and Kyrie were both on the floor, were excellent. And then those 2 guys out because of COVID protocols, and they pretty much treaded water until these past 2 bad losses. So I think they're doing fine. I think they're doing, better than I would have expected given the circumstances of those 2 guys going down. So I'm still very optimistic about them. I think they'll be in the conversation for contenders for the championship.
I think they're second round no matter what.
Interesting.
Which isn't even. It's literally only winning the first round, but still.
Real quick, thank you, Garrett and Jordana, for the support in the chat. I see it. Thank you. And for me on this, again, you don't want to buy into too much so early in the season. Like Ben said, that Katie's been out, Kyrie's been out, Dinwiddie went down, which that injury looks a lot more serious. Not serious as in the injury, but like effect on the team as it initially seemed. Levert's been struggling so far this year. He's not had good shooting numbers, but he's putting up like a decent like points per game. But he could be doing a lot better. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. But like Ben said, they had good wins again. They destroyed the Celtics. They destroyed the Warriors. Yes, they lost to like the Hornets. They lost to the Hawks once. And they lost what you just said, the Grizzlies and who they lose to? I just said it, the Thunder.
The Wizards.
And the Wizards as well. Yeah, the Wizards.
I remember like Russell Westbrook. Yeah.
Which a team that we would probably talk about in another podcast. They do not look like a good team at all. We were pretty wrong on that one. But yeah, so I think the Nets will turn it around eventually. I'm with Andrew. I'm not really sure that they're a championship team yet. I'm not really bought they'll make the conference finals for sure. But again, they have a whole what we at like 60. We have like 60 more games left to convince me, so it's still plenty of time. So don't buy too much into it. Next up is a struggling team, kind of like the Nets, but a little more shocking in my opinion. The Nuggets. They have not been good this year. Yes, Michael Porter Jr. has been out for quite a while due to safety protocols. But the Nuggets, I believe, let me check. They were 4-5 entering today. They won today, so they're 5-5. But their wins were not against good teams. I think their wins were against the Rockets, Timberwolves twice, without Karl Anthony Towns, the 76ers when they had 7 players, and I think the Knicks. Yeah, the Knicks. They beat the Knicks today. So that's not really like an impressive thing. So like, Ben, what's wrong with the Nuggets?
The defense just they're giving up too many points. They don't seem very focused on that end, but honestly, I'm not too worried about them. Out of their losses, Clippers, Suns, Dallas, like those are good teams you might expect them to lose to, and then just 2 bad losses to the Kings, both of them. So I'm not worried at all about the Nuggets, really. I think the reason this is a conversation even is because Jokic is playing at an MVP level and they're still only at 5-5. But you've got to remember, I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but aside from the Lakers and the Heat, the Nuggets made it to the conference finals. So aside from those 2 teams, they've had the shortest offseason as well.
Mm-hmm.
But they have lots of time to figure it out. I'm really not worried about them. I think their offense is fine for the most part.
All right, Andrew?
Yeah, I was going to say, you kind of stole my thunder, Daniel, because I was going to go through the games that they played. But I will mention that the 76ers win, not very impressive because who they started on the 76ers started that night? Dakota Athis, Dwight Howard, Isaiah Joe, Tyrese Maxey, and Danny Green. And personally, I've heard of 2 of these players, and I really want to forget one of them. But like, I'm not really a huge fan of the Nuggets. I know Ben was saying he's not worried, but they lost to the Kings in OT, and they lost to Dallas in OT. They lost like really close 3-point games. So I just think that they can't close in the fourth. They're 5-5 leading in the half, not leading in half. So I don't think it's a problem until like the fourth quarter. So yeah, I mean, they've lost to pretty good teams like the Clippers. They obviously they needed to win that game because they were embarrassed last year. And who else? The Suns, kind of CP3, Aiden, and Booker both had at least 20 points. So they're pretty good teams that they lost to, but the Nuggets, like you mentioned, were in the conference finals last year. I expected a lot more from them and a lot more from Jamal Murray too. It looks like Jokic is like stepped up from last year, but I wish I could see Jamal Murray like even take it. He can go playoff Murray throughout the entire season. It would be crazy. But yeah, I mean, I guess I said I was worried, but I mean, I don't know. I'll just have to wait.
That Clippers game, it's the Clippers who had the revenge, objective there.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, yeah.
And they won. They won that game.
Jokic, as Ben said, is having the best season of his career. He is an MVP candidate if his team was good. Right now, I believe they're not even in the playoff picture if the season were to end today, which, again, we still have 60 more games, so we don't.
They're in the play-in right now. Side number 10.
But one of my big reasons why, and I touched on this when I introduced this topic, is Michael Porter Jr. is not playing, and he hasn't played, I believe, since the first game. And he's actually going to be a huge part of this team and how they perform this year. He is arguably, maybe not arguably, the third scoring option on that team. His defense is a little questionable going into the season, but he's very confident that he's more improved on it. So yeah, that's a reason. But for those nerds out there who are listening to this podcast, the Nuggets have the second best offense in the league, an offensive rating, but they have the 26th defensive rating in the league, which is horrible.
Yeah,
they're for a championship team. Michael Porter Jr. is not going to help that. So as much as I want to give Porter Jr. excuse, he's not going to improve that. So they got to pick it up on the defensive end. Mike Malone is a great coach. He will definitely turn this around. They will turn it around. Andrew said, Murray, a lot of people were like, oh, all right, the bubble is when he turns around and becomes a star. So far, he's been giving inconsistent results. He's not horrible, but I think he's averaging 21 on like 48% shooting. So like it's decent, but considering how he played in the bubble, they kind of need him to play a little better for them to have like serious championship aspirations. But as Ben said, don't bite too early. The Nuggets are very capable of going on a win streak whenever they feel like it. They're just a good team, if that makes sense. They don't have like, I mean, Jokic can arguably be that one you go to for game winners. And I think he's I forgot the stat, but he's really
a game winner. He had a game overtimer with the Mavericks this year.
Yeah. He's a good player. I hate that people like to compare him to like Embiid and say, oh, Jokic is nowhere compared to Embiid. Jokic is just a very good player. He's just the best big man passer I've ever seen in my life. I think that's by far. But yeah, so I think the Nuggets will definitely be a top 4 seed at the end of the season. I don't think you should stress too much about this. So last topic we're to discuss will be who has been the most surprising player so far. Ben, what you have?
I don't know. I have two, and I'll see if you guys mention the other one. But I'm gonna say Colin Sexton first.
Wow, that's incredible. I didn't choose him, but I have him written down. I have a couple players written down.
I mean, there's a reason for it. I mean, 25.1 points per game, shooting 51.6% from three. He led the Cavs to a 3-0 start. They're now 5-5, which is still, I had them as the worst team in the league, so that's still really good. Go ahead, Andrew. I'll wait on the second one. See if any of you mention.
Well, I'll go with one too. We'll do. If you're gonna, you'll go with a Cav. I'll go with another Cav. Just called Andre Drummond. I could have drafted Andre Drummond in fantasy, and I was like, he is not. I'm like, why would I draft this sorry center? He is getting so many fantasy points. He's rebounding like crazy, and he's actually scoring for the Cavs. Andre Drummond has really shocked me this year, but he's not like the number one guy who shocked me. Not even top 3. So, okay, you go. Daniel, do you want to go, or does Ben want to go?
Yeah. Wait, Ben, you want me to go so I don't?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I love that Sexton pick. I'm pretty sure one of our previous podcasts, I said Sexton is one of the most underrated players in this league, and I'm glad that he's playing out of his mind this year. He deserves it. I have Christian Wood. And the reason behind that is he had a good stretch with the Pistons after they traded Andre Drummond. And then the league shut down. So it was about I think 17 games, something like that. And he was good. And then people were like, oh, is it for real? And I was one of those players who were like, oh, maybe he just put players. I was one of those people who thought it was just a fluke on a good points on a bad team. And he signed with the Rockets. And I'm like, okay, with Harden, maybe this isn't going to be, he's not going to score as much. And he's played outstanding this year. Today, he said he was looking forward to that Anthony Davis matchup. He did not do that good today against Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis played out of his mind. But this year, Christian Wood is averaging 23 points per game, 10 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 54% from the field, and 25% from three, which isn't good. But he's playing really good. Another player I want to touch on real quick, which I think is going to win most improved, is Jeremy Grant out of the Pistons. He is playing really good basketball right now. A lot of people, I think all of us, made fun of them for signing Jeremy Grant because why would you sign him to that big contract? And he's proven that, hey, I'm a good player. I'm not a system player like everyone thought. I'm not off Jokic. I could be my own player, and he's played very good this year. So that's my honorable mention. Ben, who's your number 2?
None of you mentioned Bradley Beal. I don't know if you guys thought, but I thought that Westbrook would take the lead and Beal's scoring would go way down. Right now, he's averaging 35, 4.4 ahead of anybody in terms of scoring. Yeah, I thought Westbrook would just take over and it would be one of those Russell Westbrook gets triple doubles every night and then everyone else kind of does whatever and they make an 8 seed sort of teams. But Bradley Beal has actually stepped up his scoring. And another reason that this is surprising, sort of a surprising situation, is that Beal's scoring 35 points per game and the Wizards are terrible. Like they're at the bottom of the league. So like that's surprising in itself to me that he scored so much and yet they're still so bad.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought Westbrook too would take a lot of the shots.
Russell Westbrook was going to take from Beal.
Take what?
Is he delayed?
Wait, can you hear that? So it's literally a pop-up ad. I'm on the ESPN stats, and then that popped up. My bad.
Can you hear us?
Mm-hmm.
He's a little bit delayed.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
What is happening?
But anyways, I'm with you, Ben. I thought Westbrook was going to take a lot of shots away from him, and to be fair, he actually has. But the Wizards' defense is horrible, so it's just basically an offensive shootout every game they play. Beal is one of the best scorers in the league. I hope they trade him. I hope he has to be traded because he deserves to go to a better place. He's not winning anything in Washington. Same with Westbrook. I think they seem to blow it up there. They have a couple good young players. Tank for a good top pick this year. I don't think they have it. It was a good experiment. Didn't work out. A little fun little note on the Wizards, though, which I find interesting. The past 4 teams the Wizards have faced, there's been a COVID outbreak against them.
Jeez.
It's a little interesting.
Also, Westbrook, he had COVID earlier this year.
So it's just interesting how that works. It's interesting. It was the Sixers, Celtics, Mavericks, and then the Heat. And then all 4 of them just had a COVID outbreak amongst their teams. So...
Oh my God, just let me get these stats without popping up in the video. All right, I'm ready.
Is there a stat you need before we go?
Well, yeah, I had another player.
Oh, go.
THT on the Lakers, who right now averaging 9. Oh my God, of course I screenshotted the stats, but I can't see. Oh my, it doesn't have the points and so I just see the numbers. I don't even know. But I think oh my goodness. I think he's averaging 7.1 points. I think that's assist 0.7. I don't know. He's been playing pretty well. And he kind of started playing in the bubble last year during the playoffs because Coach Vogel had a lot of faith in him as a youngin and he was hungry and the Lakers needed players in that Rockets series. So then they started playing THT and he's balled out and he's a huge emerging star for the Lakers. I mean, definitely in my opinion better than Kuzma, who I also have as a surprise player, but not for a good reason. I'm really disappointed in Kuzma, especially after he got that contract. But I've never been a fan of Kuzma, so. But yeah, THT, and also Melo. And now when people hear Melo, they're gonna think of LaMelo and not Carmelo. So I'm sorry, Carmelo, but your career is probably over after the new Melo's in town. So okay, that was my 3.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Didn't Horton Tucker get a career high tonight?
Yeah, he literally had 45 fantasy points tonight. I was like, I need to pick him up, and then I checked, and I'm like, I can't really drop anybody. And then I went to pick up Christian Wood during the Rockets game, and I was like, the Mighty Ducks have him. I'm like, I'm not getting him.
Let's see.
Fantasy player.
He had 17 points.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think that was by far his career high. I don't think he played that much last year and this year. But yeah, shout out to him. Yeah, that's all we got. We'll be back next Sunday with another episode. Hopefully the league is still going on by then. Hopefully there's not a lot of postponements because it kind of seems like there will be pretty soon because a lot of teams don't have a lot of players. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for the support in the chat. I see them all. We see them all. If you aren't already, please subscribe. We unfortunately lost a subscriber since our last stream, so let's bump it back up. We're trying to get to 100 subs. That'd be pretty cool. hopefully by June, but most likely by end of 2021. It's doable. It's very doable. But for those listening on the podcast, please like this podcast on whatever you're listening to. Review. We'll read them. Give us your thoughts on what you think of this podcast. Comment down below what you want us to talk about, what you thought, whatever you want. Just like this video, subscribe, and we're out. Peace.
Lakers for life.